All right, I've got a story for you today, and this one comes straight from the trenches of a massive 200-person development project. It all starts with a very strange sound, but it ends up telling us a whole lot about this buzzword we hear all the time: digital transformation.
Just imagine walking onto a new project and this is the first thought that pops into your head. It's pretty shocking, right? And it perfectly captures this huge gap between the grand vision of a project and, well, the messy, unbelievable reality of how it's actually getting built.
So where does this all start? Well, funny enough, it's not with code, it's not with a system diagram, it begins with a feeling. The developer who tells this story said the very first thing they noticed was just the air. And that oppressive feeling was very, very real.
On this project, everything was carved up. You had your dev team over here, server team over there, ops in another corner. But this wasn't just on some org chart. No, you could feel it. These were physical walls, creating these little islands in a room that was already way too crowded. 80 centimeters. That's how much desk space each person got. Think about that. You put down your computer, maybe a notebook, and that's it. You're out of room. And if you thought that was bad, in the testing room, it was only 60 centimeters. I mean, at that point, it's not a workspace, it's a storage locker.
Just try to picture the scene. You've got 200 people crammed into a space, basically creating a human furnace. The CO2 levels were so high, they were actually setting off health warnings. People were feeling sick. And on top of all that, you have this constant, high-pitched whine from all the computer fans working overtime.
But underneath all that chaos, there was this other sound. A deep, heavy, constant hum. It just didn't belong. And it seemed to get louder as the day went on and more people filed in. So the question was, what in the world was making that noise? We're about to find out what was making that sound, and believe me, what it reveals is pretty wild. If you're into these kinds of tech stories, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more explainers like this. Da-da-da-da!
So the hunt for the source of that weird humming sound led to a discovery that was, well, let's just say it was unexpected. It was definitely not a standard piece of office equipment.
And there it was, tucked away, but kind of in plain sight. This big, silver, metallic slab. You could tell right away it wasn't just another desktop PC. This was something important.
And this right here is the heart of the whole story. This wasn't just a server. It was the server, the absolute core of the entire development environment. So how was this critical piece of hardware being treated? Oh, just 3 units stacked on top of each other like pancakes, not even in a proper rack. And the cooling system, a single cheap household fan pointed vaguely in its direction. The single most important machine was also the most vulnerable.
You see, this one, sad, neglected server, it opens up a much, much bigger conversation. It really pulls the curtain back on this corporate buzzword that we hear everywhere these days: DX, or digital transformation.
And here's the massive disconnect. Up in the boardroom, you hear all the big talk. We're leveraging the cloud. We're AI-driven. We're data first. But then you go down to where the work is actually happening, and the reality is overcrowding, terrible working conditions, and completely unstable systems, all perfectly symbolized by that one naked server. So how does any work get done at all? The only reason things move forward is because the people on the ground are bridging that enormous gap with their own sheer unsustainable effort. It's a pretty powerful lesson, and honestly, we see this pattern in so many places. If this is resonating with you, let us know by hitting that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive. Click, thumbs, subscribe.
So that server, it wasn't just a piece of broken down hardware. It became something way more powerful. It became a symbol.
This quote just nails it. The state of that server is a perfect mirror. It shows you what the company actually values, not what it says it values in its mission statement. It shows you what gets the investment, and more importantly, what gets completely ignored.
And that forces you to ask some really tough questions, right? Is the investment going into the foundations, the stuff that actually makes success possible? Or is it all just being spent on flashy things while the core infrastructure and the people are left to fend for themselves?
And this might be the biggest question of all. When a critical server is being cooled by a desk fan, that's not the server team's fault. That is a massive, systemic, structural failure. But who has to deal with it? The individuals on the ground. They're the ones forced to work around it, to compensate for it, and to carry the weight of that failure day in and day out.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty bad. But here's the thing.
The most powerful part of this whole story is that it doesn't just point out the problems. It actually shows us a clear path to a solution.
And here it is. This is the main takeaway from this whole thing. Real, meaningful digital transformation, it's not about buying the latest software or chasing the next tech trend. It is about changing the underlying structure, the environment, the priorities, and the culture.
And that kind of change, it doesn't have to start with some huge multi-million-dollar project. It starts with the basics. It starts by giving people enough desk space to actually think. It starts by making sure the air quality isn't literally making people sick. And it starts with treating your core systems with the respect they deserve. These little things, they set the stage for everything else.
And that leaves us with this one final thought. As all these companies chase the dream of DX, they really need to look in the mirror that the Naked Server provides. Because a transformation that's built on the burnout and sheer grit of its people isn't a transformation at all. It's just a crisis waiting to happen. So what's the Naked Server in your organization?